Yeah. And I only did 1 through 10. That's another hint.
Oh no.
Be afraid. Be
Mr.
very
Jordan,
afraid.
I've been through a very traumatic event. I think you need to take it easy.
Whose fault is that?
Okay, we're just solving for theta here. No problem, right? Any guesses what we're going to do first?
Squared.
Is this if you graph stuff?
Oh, why do we have
No, we're not graphing.
I'm not graphing.
Okay, how do we get rid of the square?
Look at the thing. Square root.
You have two.
Okay, but when we square root both sides, you guys remember what happens?
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus. So I'm just going to write it like this. Secant of theta equals 3. Secant of theta equals -3. Okay. Do you guys remember? Let me back up a little bit. Like if we have sine of theta equals 1/2. Do you guys remember how we solved this? Sine of some angle equals 1/2. To find the answer, you do sine inverse of 1/2. That gives you the angle.
So is this all calculator stuff?
Well, you need the calculator, yes. Also, make sure your calculators for 1 through 8 are in degrees, because the directions tell us to use degrees. Okay, but secant is not in the calculator. So do you guys remember what we did about that?
1 over cosine?
Well, we changed it to cosine, which is like secant upside down. So if we flip this side, to keep it equal, we gotta flip this side. If we do the reciprocal of this side, we have to do the reciprocal of that side, which is 1/3.
You do inverse.
And then we do cosine inverse. Doesn't tell us where to round it. It says round to the nearest 1/10 of a degree. You guys get something? Okay, 70.5. Okay, here's the thing though. It's been a while since we've done this. They don't just want one answer. They want all the answers. If you look at the directions, it says something like this. All the possible answers between 0 and 360. This is only one of those answers. Where else does cosine equal something positive? What other quadrant besides? This is a first quadrant angle, right? So basically 70.5 degrees, that's like our reference angle. What other quadrant does cosine equal a positive value? Fourth quadrant. So how do we find the fourth quadrant angle?
We subtract it from 15.
360 minus 70.5. 70.5 is our reference angle. It tells us like how far we are from the x-axis. So in this quadrant, it's going to be 70.5 away from 360. So what is that? 259.5?
289.5.
89. Yeah, sorry. 89.5. Okay. 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 Now we would be done except for I just kind of ignored this guy. You guys remember where this came from? When you square root both sides, it's plus or minus, so it could also equal -3, which means cosine of theta could also equal -1/3. So we need to do cosine inverse of -1/3. Hmm?
109.
This is one day of assignment, right?
Mhm. Okay, 109.5 is a second quadrant. Here's 90, so it's a second quadrant angle. Where else does cosine equal something negative? Fourth quadrant. So we need the fourth quadrant. If you did 180 minus 109.5, you know what we would find? That this angle right here is 70.5. Because they both have a ratio of 1 to 3, basically. So 70.5 is still a reference angle. So to find this angle right here, the third quadrant version of that angle, we would do 180 plus 70.5. Just like over here, we did 360 minus 70.5. 70.5, the reference angle, tells us how far we are from the x-axis, basically. So that would be 250.5. So there's 4 answers.
So it's like basically just like an ABC probably. Kind of.
Yeah, a lot of them have 4 answers, not all of them. Some of them don't work. Let's see. Actually, do they all have 4? Let me check. 6, 8 doesn't. But all the rest do. 9 doesn't. 9 doesn't. Alright. Number 3. Yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna make it to 10. We'll try it. We'll see what we can do here. Okay. So this one, does this ring a bell? Does this seem familiar at all? Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a reason they put this assignment at the end. Anytime you see like a cosecant squared and a 1, something squared and a 1, that's like one of the things we learned yesterday. So we need to flip back to 317. What is 1 minus cosecant squared equal to?
Sine.
No.
And.
Close.
Last problem we did 1.
Mm-hmm.
Looks different.
Yours doesn't say secant squared equals.
Okay, wait, yeah, it does.
Negative
There's positive.
Yes, it's negative. Okay. If we subtract cosecant squared over here, then we have to subtract cotangent squared to the other side. Subtract cosecant squared, we have 1 minus cosecant squared. And subtract cotangent squared, and there'd be a negative cotangent squared over here. So 1 minus cosecant squared is equal to negative cotangent squared. Well, I don't really want the negative, so how can I get rid of that? Just, yeah, divide by negative 1. So cotangent squared equals 3. Cotangent's not in the calculator. What is in the calculator? Okay, but if we flip, basically what we do when we change it from that to that is we're flipping it upside down. So to keep it equal, we need to flip that upside down. All right. How do I get rid of this square? Square root. All right, now square root of 1/3 simplifies, but it doesn't really matter because it's not the answer. Oops. Okay, doesn't matter because that's not the final answer. We don't need to simplify it. So we need to do tangent inverse of the square root of 1/3. And then eventually also negative 1. first one? Hmm? Yep. Okay, so 30 is a first quadrant angle. And that's also how far we are from the x-axis, so it's also a reference angle. Okay, tangent is also going to be positive. Tangent equals positive in the third quadrant. But also it equals negative over here, so that means we need a second and fourth quadrant angle as well. So it's kind of like the last one. We're going to have 4 angles, each one with 30 degrees as the reference angle. So this angle right here is 180 minus 30, which is 150. This one right here is 180 plus 30, 210. And how do I find this angle right here? 360 minus 30, which is 330. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's see. I'm going to pause. I want you guys to try number 2 right now on your own. See if you can do it. See how far you can get. How's your finger? Is it throbbing? Negative 45. You can't use negative 45 because it's not between 0 and 360. So you need to convert it to a positive fourth quadrant angle instead of a negative fourth quadrant angle. Good job. So that means you need a fourth quadrant angle. That's not here.
So we'll just say
So 45 is basically your reference angle. That's how
And
far
then
we
you
are
need
from
one
the
that
x-axis.
is
So you
you know
can find the fourth
That's what I
quadrant
was
by
gonna
doing
do,
360
because I
minus
started
45. And then that tangent is also equal to a positive value in the third quadrant. And it's equal to the negative value
tangent inverse.
in the second quadrant as well as the fourth quadrant.
Yeah.
So really you need one in each quadrant and 45 degrees.
Well, you
each
get how
direction.
much?
So this is the first quadrant angle. The fourth quadrant angle you can use this as a negative. And then, so it's basically like what we did right here. It's 180 minus 45, 180 plus 45, 360 minus 45. 360 plus 45 would just be in this quadrant. It'd be like 400 and some degrees. We're looking for all the possible angles between 0 and 360.
I guess that's true.
Now, technically that would work though,
Yeah.
but was that a British accent? What did you say?
Yes, I did.
Say it in the way that you articulate it.
Good morning, people.
I don't know. I feel like you're quoting, I'm gonna guess an anime, but I don't know.
It's this guy on TikTok who has cat ears and a collar.
No. So even worse.
No, but it's because of Ava. Because she said good morning one time.
Because she said good morning one time. How dare she?
Because then I was like, whoa. They put this reference to TikTok.
Did you get the 45 thing? Did you get the other three angles? All right. Just when you think you know what you're doing.
We're keen to each other's roads, remember? Girl, she keeps going.
Snotty girl. That's what your mom calls you.
No, but she says that.
Do you have a question or what?
No, I was trying to get her to touch my hand, but she didn't.
With my snot?
Just hand her the tissue.
I was gonna.
Okay. This is in the pattern of a quadratic equation. It's kind of in this pattern. Like if I replace sine with x. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna solve this, and then once I figure out what x is, we're gonna put sine back in for x. Okay? You guys see what I did? I just replaced sine with x. Okay, how would I solve this? I'm sure it probably factors. If it didn't factor, you'd have to use quadratic formula. You could do that anyway if you wanted to, but I think factoring is usually faster for me. So, what goes into 6x squared? What goes into 2 is 2 and 1. We have to manipulate it in a way so that the outside inside adds up to -7. If I put a -2 and a -1 here, this makes -4x and -3x, which makes -7x. Okay, so this is right. What x values make these factors equal 0? 1/2 and 2/3. Okay, now if this was the problem, we'd be done. But this is the problem. I replaced sine with x. So that means sine of theta equals 1/2. And sine of So now, how do I figure out what theta must be?
You do the sine inverse.
Yes, thank you for giving an answer. Okay, that's gonna give me one answer. It's gonna have a twin answer using the reference angle. This will give me another. Now this is different than the first three that we did because this is not like 1/2 and -1/2. So it's not, these two are not gonna share a reference angle. Okay, so it's a little bit different than 1, 2, and 3. What is sine inverse of 1/2? Let's see, where's number 5? They're over 30 degrees.
The A.
Okay, so what that gave us was a first quadrant angle, which means it's also a reference angle, 30 degrees. Where else is sine equal to something positive? Because it's equal to positive 1/2. Second quadrant.
So it's 180 minus this.
So it's 180 minus 30, which is 150. Okay, there's two of our answers. Unfortunately, we can't use 30 to find these two quadrants because it's not equal to -1/2 over here. It's equal to a totally different number. So we're just gonna have to kind of redo what we just did. Sine inverse of 2/3 is what? 41.8. So it's a totally different reference angle. So we can't like recycle that one. But basically, oh shoot. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, 41.8 is our first quadrant angle. Sine is also going to be positive in the second quadrant. Yeah, so we need to do 180 minus that, which is what Hope just said, 138. There's a lot of steps, aren't there?
Yeah, you told me that like yesterday.
You're better than
We're chained to each other first, remember?
She kept saying that on a call, but I was muted, so I kept telling her to shut up because I was doing my work, but I was muted and I didn't realize that. So I kept saying, and she kept saying, and I was like,
I'm imagining like your parents walking by your door to your room and hearing, shut up, shut up.
Well, we were on the call with Skylar one time, and I remember she went downstairs or something, and she came back, but she was muted. And she was like moving her camera around, and she like said something, and so we were on a call, and we're like, oh, I wonder where Skylar went.
it was like 15 minutes later.
It was 14 minutes, we counted. It was
Really?
yeah, it was 14 minutes. We counted. And then she's like, guys, I was muted, but I was talking to you the whole time. 14 minutes she was talking to us. She was talking to us for 14 minutes.
She never, here's the crazy thing, she never required a response from you in 14 minutes. She was like, this is fine.
Yeah, she was just like, are they just ignoring me?
No, she just talks the whole time.
She never took a breath that whole time. She just talked
Like,
nonstop.
I don't even have to respond to her not. Like, it's like she just keeps talking.
You can just stare straight ahead and she'll just,
She'll just go on her little rants, and then all of a sudden she'll like shift her focus to something else. And just keep going. We should just go to 8.
yeah, I think you're probably right. All right, number 7 looks like it's pretty close to number 5. What do you guys think we should do first on 4?
Stop.
Plus 3.
Plus 3 divided by 8. Then it's pretty much the same thing as number 2. After you add 3 and divide by 8.
Oh, Shelby, stop.
Shelby, if you don't stop, we'll staple your other hand. You guys remember when you and Anya put stuff in Shelby's hair?
Yeah. What a time.
Like a lot of stuff.
Stop, you just messed up my work.
Is that why you don't wear your hair like that anymore, Shelby?
I like that yesterday.
Did?
He didn't.
No, exactly.
You don't care.
Chaining to each other birds, remember?
Shut up!
Okay, number 7 is really pretty much the same as number 5, the one we just did.
We just moved everything.
It's just all moved to the other side. But if we move it over, like add 5 cosine, oh, never mind. It's a little bit different. Minus the 7. Okay, there is something different. This one's sine squared, this one's cosine squared. One more trick in the bag is number 8's like this, turn it. Okay. I can turn sine squared into cosine squared, you guys know how? Sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. That trick from yesterday. And then I can distribute this. Okay, these two guys can go together, but also for factoring purposes, I don't want the squared term to be negative. So I'm going to multiply everything by -1 as well, and 2 things at once. So if I multiply this by -1, and this by -1, -7 plus 6 is -1, but if you multiply it by -1, it'll be +1. Okay, now it looks like number 5. Alright, so did you see the trick I added? I used one of our formulas from yesterday. Sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. And I distributed, simplified. Okay. So at this point on the other problem, I kind of dropped the cosines. Makes it easier for factoring. What goes into 6x squared? What goes into 1? 1 and 1, but it needs to add up to -5, so I need to use -1 and -1. What x values make these factors equal 0?
1/2 or 1/3.
Which means, remember, x is actually cosine. So cosine equals 1/2, and cosine equals 1/3. I'm cheating. 60 degrees. And cosine inverse of 1/3 is 70.5. Am I looking at the right spot? Oh, was this number 1? Oh yeah. We did cosine inverse on 1/3 on number 1. Okay, so both of these equal something positive. What other quadrant is... These are first quadrant angles, which cosine is positive in. What other quadrant is cosine positive in? I think somebody said fourth, which is right. So we need to do 360 minus 60 and 360 minus 70.5 also. What was it on number 1? It was 289.5.
Yeah. You should come up with 8 also.
Okay, but just the first part. I'm just a It was on a commercial, and I saw the commercial like twice this week.
Why did you become a singer?
I know, I missed my calling, didn't
Yeah.
I? Issa and I, we both missed our calling.
Do it.
I guess you could,
Missed. I'm on my way.
you're gonna be on American Idol next season.
Yeah. I'm a rising star.
I can't remember who the judges are right now, but I would like to see what they have to tell you.
Okay, Harry, go on.
It'd be words of encouragement.
Why'd you laugh so much?
I'm so glad you're confident in this, but I need to strengthen that
Leave it to the
confidence a little bit
professionals.
more.
Ow.
Back in the days when Simon Cowell was the judge.
Did he die?
No, he just quit. He just doesn't do American Idol anymore. Does he do America's Got Talent?
What's the difference?
But he's British.
I know, but
He's
he's
got
still.
softer though.
Yeah.
He doesn't go as crazy as he
Yeah, he's not as mean as he used to be.
They should just pay him more money to be mean. Like, pay him more
Okay.
money to be mean.
So the problem on this is this one's a cosine and this one's a sine. How can I change cosine squared into a sine?
Sticky, like one plus minus cosine. Same thing.
This is one of the things we did from yesterday, the last 2 days. Cosine squared is the same as 1 minus sine squared. Also, I'm gonna subtract this 3 over so it's on the correct side. This one's a little bit easier than 7 because we don't have to distribute anything out here. Okay, if I combine the 1 and the minus 3, it's minus 2. Then you know what I'm going to do? Multiply everything by -1. Factoring is a lot easier when the leading coefficient is positive. And I'm briefly going to change those into x's. Oh, I forgot.
What?
There's like 2 weird things about this one. Okay, let's keep going, I guess.
We should just do the entire row.
Now what?
Factor.
X plus 2, X plus 1.
Oh, it's not good there.
Negative 2 and negative 1.
And then sine.
Okay,
But we can't have negative, right?
the angles can't be negative. This can be negative. But there is a problem with this one. You may try to plug this in yet.
Yeah. It jumps negative 9.
What?
Oh yeah, oh, sorry, I did the wrong thing. My bad.
This one does.
Yeah, I did that. Sorry.
This one, it'll say error.
Oh.
Because sine only goes from -1 to +1. It doesn't even reach this. So there is no answer on this one. Okay, Grant said this one was -90. Which is right, but it's not between 0 and 360.
So you're negative 270.
Right. So -90 is actually 360 minus 9 is 270 as a positive version. And it's not in a quadrant. There's not a, you can't really use 90 as a reference angle. Like if you try to find, sine is also positive or negative in the 3rd quadrant, but if you do like 180 plus 90, you also get 270. There's only one answer on this one. But 2, 4, and 6 should have 4 answers.